Hi guys, good evening. Um, can you guys hear me properly? Hello? Okay, thank you for the feedback, Mahesh. So I see that, thank you Anil. So I see that a couple of you have already attended the previous class. So that should be good. It's nice to interact with you again. So welcome. Hi Jinal, how are you? So compared to last class, I think we don't have much of a strength in this class. We have around 12 of you who have joined. We have Akshit, Anil, Palachandar, Chandan, Jinal, Abhishek, Akshit, and Mahesh, Niharika, Pintu, Priyamvada, Raghav, Sajida. So all of you, welcome. We have Suraj who has just now joined. So welcome all of you. And without wasting much of a time, I'll get into the stuff for today. So this is the second part of the demo that we had. I think we had one demo last weekend also. And this demo is going to be very similar in that sense that there are two objectives of this demo. First is to basically give you some idea about CFA, what the exam is all about, how you should prepare for the exam, and in general any questions on your career counseling, saying that is CFA the right choice for you, etc., etc. And then the second part is more to give you a demo on one of the topics for CFA. The topics that I prepared today was financial statement analysis, financial reporting analysis, primarily because many of the students feel this is one of the top difficult areas of the exam. So again, I'm going to give you a very high level overview. The objective of the demo is not to conduct an actual class, rather it's more a very high level overview of what you can expect both with respect to studying for this topic on the exam, and also give you some insight about how we can conduct classes in Pristine. So what are the mode of, or what are the typical kind of a classroom session go like, and how you can interact with your faculty, etc., etc. All right. So I think as most of you would have already figured out by now, the way we do webinar classes is, unfortunately, you don't have the luxury of seeing each other's face. So that's why I think the onus is very much on you guys to give me constant feedback. So I time and again ask questions, and I would appreciate if you can actually give answers using the question box. I think by this time I assume all of you know how to use the question box to either post a question or give an answer to a question, or in general any feedback. All right. So it's very important for everyone's sake that we keep ourselves active. So time and again I try to ask some questions, or I try to get some feedback, and please make sure that you do contribute to this feedback and to this interactive session by trying to either posting your own answers or giving me answers to the questions that I ask. So it's very important to keep up the level. The other thing is also, I think by this time all of you would have understood this part also, that it's basically one-way communication in terms of audio, in the sense like I have muted all your respective microphones, and only my microphone is on. Primarily the reason for that is to avoid confusion, because it can become very tricky if we have 50 to 60 students logged in, and 60 and 50, and given that we don't have the luxury of seeing each other, it's very much possible that there may be multiple voices coming at the same point of time. So the idea is, only I would usually talk, and if you have any questions, please put it on the question box. I'll promise that I'll read each one of your questions first to the rest of the class, so that everybody is first of all aware of the question being posted, and then I'll give you the answer. Right? So that is going to be the typical classroom session that we're going to follow. All right, so I'm not going to waste further time. I'll get into the topic for today. So I'll first conduct a demo, which is primarily a demo on financial reporting analysis. First and foremost, let's understand the importance of FRA topic from exam perspective. So CFA level 1, as most of you would know, is basically a multiple choice question. There are going to be 2 sessions on the exam. You will have a morning session and you will have an evening session or an afternoon session. Morning session is usually from 9 to 12, 3 hours, and afternoon session is 2 to 5. Right? During each session, all your topics are tested. So it's not that you have certain topics for which you'll be writing exam in the morning and certain topics for which you'll be writing in the evening. All your topics are included in your morning and all your topics are included in your afternoon session. So that way there is no difference between the content of questions or the topics for which the question papers are set in the morning or afternoon exam. When it comes to CFA level 1 in particular, you have 120 multiple choice questions in the morning and 120 multiple choice questions in the afternoon. So totally 240 questions. In CFA level 1, the highest weightage goes to FRA, which is Financial Reporting and Analysis. The total weightage of FRA for the exam is 20%, which is the highest of all the topics that you find in CFA level 1. So 20% means around 24 questions in the morning session and around 24 questions in the afternoon section. So overall around 48 questions you can expect on this particular topic from on the exam, right? So it's quite significant. As I said, your CFA level 1, as I said, FRA has the highest weightage when it comes to CFA level 1 topics. So definitely FRA is one of the important focus areas for doing well on the exam perspective. So I have a question from Mahesh. He asks, how is financial modeling related to financial reporting and analysis? It's a good question, Mahesh. So let's first try to understand what is meant by financial modeling. I think in Pristine also we conduct a classroom session on financial modeling. Financial modeling is basically building a model. My handwriting is very bad. Till date I couldn't get a good grasp on handwriting, so I hope you can follow what I'm trying to write there. Otherwise I can write it again, so not a problem. So financial modeling is all about building a model to solve financial problems. So basically what it means is a model is anything, at a very high level, model is anything which is an abstract representation of a problem. That is, you have some problem. Let's say you are worried about how to run your business better, right? So that is a problem. So you represent that abstractly using a model, and any model that is used for solving financial related problems is called a financial model. A typical example of financial model would be using valuation, right? So a typical question would be, let's say you're running a company, you want to know how much should be the value for this company. Or let's say you are a portfolio asset manager, you are interested in buying a stock and you want to know what should be the intrinsic value of the stock, that is, which is the best possible value that I should pay for the stock. So for these cases you can actually build a financial model. For financial model, let's say when you're talking about a valuation case in particular, first thing that you start with is analyzing historical data. That is, let's say the example that I say, let's say you want to purchase some stock, let's say ABC stock have recently appeared in the market. You want to know, is it good for me to buy ABC stock or not in my portfolio? For that, how would you go about? You will first go look at financial statements of the company. So the first starting point always is that you start with the existing financial statements of the company. So you look at your income statement, you look at your balance sheet. So first step of financial modeling is FRA. That is, you first understand what is the income statement, you first understand what is the balance sheet of the company. You understand what are the drivers for income growth. That is, from where is the company making maximum amount of money? Is it through core operations? Is it through something else? Or has the company made money because of one-off a good year? So that is where your financial reporting becomes very useful. Obviously a good way of analyzing the company is to understand accounting. That is, only when you know how accounting is employed, you can actually understand what various entries in financial statements represent and how to interpret them, right? So Mahesh, to answer your question in one word, financial reporting analysis is your starting point for building a financial modeling. At least starting point to the extent that you identify how the current financial statements of the company are. You first understand what the current state of affairs of the company is, and from there you try to build projections for future years. All right. Akshit has a question. What type of questions usually come from FRA? Akshit, it's a very broad topic, FRA. As I said, there are, so the whole idea of my today's demo would be to give you an insight of what you are going to study going forward for FRA, that is FRA topic in CFA level 1, and what are the complications that can arise. So it's a very, it's a very broad concept, the whole concept of FRA. As I said, it has around 20% weightage on the exam. So I'll try to highlight some of the typical questions that you may get as and when I touch a particular topic in today's demo session. All right. So hopefully at the end of today's demo, you'll get a decent idea about some of the questions that are expected. Megha has a question. In FRA, which topics should we focus more? Megha, I'll get into that as well. So in general, I would give you guys one suggestion, and that is that never leave any topic in CFA. Okay, so it's a very dangerous idea to focus on certain concepts and not focus on certain concepts. And I would say it's a very Indian way of studying it, because when I was studying my engineering or something like that, I also used to do this. Like, we all have this habit of finding out which are the important concepts, and we try to see, try to focus on them more. Please don't do that mistake when it comes to CFA, because in CFA, each and every topic is equally likely. In fact, most of the students whom I've interacted with, who don't end up clearing, they usually give me a feedback saying that some of the topics we thought are probably not very important from exam perspective, but they ended up showing up on the exam. All right. So never leave any topic. Always study topic, right? Always study each and every topic. Of course, there are some topics where you need to focus more, right? So that I'll definitely try to emphasize. But the point is, please never ever ignore any topic. That is going to be a very dangerous strategy from exam perspective. Especially a topic like FRA, where the weightage is the maximum. You have 20% weightage. I would say, please never ever ignore any topic. Okay, read each and every topic. Of course, there are certain topics which are more complicated where you have to focus more. That's okay, but don't ignore any topic. All right. Megha asks, are the topics related to each other? Yes, the topics are definitely related to each other. So that's the whole idea, Megha. Today I'll actually tell you how the whole CFA level 1 FRA syllabus is built upon, and what are the various identify blocks of topics that we will study. So hopefully after today's demo you'll get a decent idea about what are the topics and how they are related to each other. All right. Jinal says, I can't see the questions per other. Jinal, that's okay, but I hope so that's my duty. As I said, you guys put in the question. I'll try to read the question first, and then I'll try to answer them. All right. All right. Suraj asks, what is the level of difficulty of questions in this section? Suraj, FRA is typically, see, level of difficulty is not something, I would say that it's not easily quantifiable, in the sense like there are certain topics in FRA which are by nature a little difficult, so you need to focus on them a little bit more. But there are certain sections which are quite easy. So given that you have 48 questions that will come on the exam, you get a good mixture of both. I would say, if I have to take a rough number, I would say around 30 to 40 questions will be straightforward questions, but there are always going to be those 8 to 10 questions which are going to be a little difficult, right? So you need to focus on this a little more. All right. In general, FRA is a very important topic. Never ever ignore this topic from exam perspective. Actually, that's a question. What is the weightage of FRA in level 2 and level 3? Level 2, I think the weightage is around 15 to 20%. Akshit. Level 3, there is no weightage given for FRA in level 3 directly. But if you understand the whole concept of level 3 is all about application. So There are always going, even though there is no direct weightage given for FRA, given that level 3 is all about applying all the concepts that you have studied so far, FRA invariably comes into picture. All right. Let's move on. I think I know some of you still have some questions, but as we start discussing the topics, probably you'll get some answers to your questions already. Okay. And some of you have asked questions regarding which is the best study material that I have to use. I'll answer all this a little later. So as I said, there are going to be two parts for my demo session. First session will be more about the topic. So we'll try to understand this topic, financial reporting and analysis. And the second part of the session, I'll try to answer any questions that you might have on the exam, which may be either the content of the exam, how should I approach studying the exam, etc., etc. All right. So first things first, what is financial statements or what are financial reporting? Financial reporting are very important because they do, this is a famous quote that I saw in the movie Jerry Maguire. He says, show me the money, right? So financial statements do exactly what is given here. They show you the money. They show you how a company or an organization makes money, right? And that is all about that. The whole purpose of an organization is to make money. So financial statements tells you whether they're making money, and if yes, how they're making money. All right. First question naturally comes is, who asks for financial statements? Why do company take so much of an effort to prepare financial reporting and to actually release them? Obviously, first answer is better communication to stakeholders. So this is the whole idea, okay? From a company's perspective, so there are generally two kinds of an organization, right? A company or organization. There are two kinds of an organization. One is called a private firm. Another one is called a public firm. Public firm is also called corporation, right? So I assume that most of you understand the difference between these two, right? A private firm, basically the owner of the firms are individuals, one or two individuals who run the whole firm. Whereas when it comes to a public firm, when we say the company has gone public, that means company has taken money from various individuals outside of a closed group of circle. That is, public has given money, and by giving money, the public has become share owners. That is, they are also now a share owners of the company, right? So in a corporation, apart from certain individuals, people like you and me who buy stocks of the company also becomes owner of the company. Now, for such corporation, since I am also owner because I have bought shares of the company, I should know how the company is doing because it's also my company, right? I also have ownership in the company. How do I get that information? That information I only can receive through financial statements. So that's why for a corporate firm, that is for a corporation, a company which has gone public, various governmental regulations, especially SEC regulations. SEC stands for Securities and Exchange Corporation. This is a body that governs the whole security and market operations in US. So remember, CFA exam is conducted by CFA Institute. So there is going to be a lot of US flavor in whatever you're going to study. But good thing is you can always draw a parallel for most of these concepts in India. So in India, an equivalent of SEC is SEBI, right? Geenal has already mentioned that. Securities and Exchange Board of India, right? So this is an organization which basically controls or which regulates how securities and exchanges in the firm or in the country have to operate. So as part of both SEC and SEBI regulations, any firm which has gone public, that is any firm where people like you and me who can buy common stocks and can become owners in the firm, have to be communicated about the performance of the company. All right, and the way company communicates the performance to common people is through financial statements reporting. So company prepares various kinds of financial statements, and through them they try to give a message about how the company has performed. Now, from exam perspective, you need to know that SEC regulations, right, require that corporations, that is public companies, prepare at least two kinds of reporting. One is called 10Q reporting, one is called 10K reporting. Okay. So these are regulations, they're just given names, nothing more. Okay. 10Q, Q stands for quarter. So this is so this regulation says that every public firm which is listed on the exchange should report financial statements every quarter. Okay. And that is called 10Q reporting. Every quarter, a firm, so let's say we consider a hypothetical firm, ABC Corporation. So ABC Corporation have to report 10Q, every quarter they have to file 10Q reports. The idea of this is to basically say that from last quarter to this quarter, how the company has performed, that is how much of income the company has generated, has company lost any money, has company generated any money from last quarter to this quarter. And this also has comparison of last year same quarter versus this year same quarter. So let's say, so remember we are talking about SEC regulations, so they apply for US. In US, the quarters run from January to March, March to obviously June, June to September, and September to December. So Jan to March is called Q1, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. So let's say we are in quarter 1, that is Jan to March. So when the company files 10Q reporting after March, after quarter 1, the company has to show how things have changed from last quarter to this quarter. That is from Q4 2012 to Q1 2013, how things have changed from company's perspective. This is comparison of last quarter to this quarter. And we should also say same time last year, that is Q1 2012, how the company's performance was, and compare that with Q1 2013, right? So that is called 10Q reporting. Of course, as per regulations, there are certain timelines that you have to adhere to. So generally, the timelines is around between 45 days. Within 45 days, you're supposed to file 10Q reporting and have them ready from, have them readily reported to your common shareholders. And given that it's done every quarter, SEC says it's okay if you don't audit. That is, they can be unaudited financial statements. Unaudited means there is no auditing. I think all of you know what is meant by auditing. That is, there is no external third party who would have gone and verified the content of the financial reporting. All right. Then of course there is the big daddy of all, 10K. 10K reporting is an annual reporting, and this has to be audited reporting. That is when so usually a reporting accounting reporting period is for a year. So for a year, you know, just like we all go back, go back to your last year, figure out how your last year was. Did you achieve what you wanted to achieve in the beginning of the year? All of us make resolutions in the beginning of year, right? And by December, we all try to look back. Yeah, I made a resolution to what? Probably lose weight or to make more money. Did I do that? Did I not do that? Right? Same thing the company also does. So company set up some goals for the company in the beginning of the year, and by end of the year, company tries to look back. And at the end of the year, the company reports to various common shareholders saying that this is how my year was. Probably I made so much of money. These are the operations through which I made money. Probably these are the operations which were not useful for me, etc., etc. Right? And since this is a very important thing, because an annual exercise and even shareholders place a lot of importance for annual performance of a company, the presentation has to be audited. So there has to be some external auditing group which has to verify that whatever company is showing is actually as per accounting standards. That is called 10K reporting. Okay. Since this is much more intensive, that is, since you have a lot of time and a lot of effort goes, and of course also you have to get this audited, there is a higher leverage given. So usually, you get around 90 days of time to prepare. That is usually around 3 months to prepare the financial statements, get them audited, and finally get them listed to SEC. Okay. So I have some questions coming in. Let me try to answer them. Mahesh has a question. Which one does CFA use? Is it US GAAP or IFRS? Mahesh, I'll answer that question in a moment because we haven't yet touched the topic of accounting principles. I'll talk about that in a little minute. Give me a moment. Mega has a question. What is this 45 days for? 45 days for Mega is usually the time limit given for any corporation to prepare and file 10Q regulations. So let's say my quarter ends by March. All right. So from March 31st, I have around 45 days to make sure that my 10Q report for the quarter Q1 is ready and ready to be listed to common stockholders. So 45 days is the time given for a corporation to prepare your financial reports. All right. Priyamada has a question. Aren't audited statements also given in the month of July? Priyamada, again, it depends on country to country and their regulations. We are talking more about US regulation, and as far as my understanding of US regulation goes, it's usually given in March time. That is, remember in US regulations, your quarter 4 ends on December. That is, as your year finishes, your quarter finishes, and you have around 3 months time, that is around 90 days to make sure that your data is audited and reported. Of course, in India, the financial accounting or the financial calendar is from March till April, or April till March, right? So I think probably you're talking more about Indian reporting, whereas I'm talking more about US reporting. Of course, CFA Institute is based in US. So as I said, when it comes to CFA, you will have a high flavor of US, US regulations and concepts that you have to study. Anil Kumar has a question. We have to study according to SEC or SEBI. We have to study according to SEC or SEBI if I am resident of India. Anil, the point is CFA exam is conducted by CFA Institute, which is located in US. So they have no mention about regional regulations. That is, in CFA Institute syllabus, you only learn about SEC regulations. You don't learn about SEBI regulations, or you don't learn about any other regulations. Let's say if you are in China, it's not that they'll talk about China's regulations. Okay. The good part is in CFA Institute, they clearly tell you these are the regulations which are specific to the country. That is, SEC regulations are only meant for United States listed corporations. But that is the point. When it comes to the exam, they'll be clearly saying these are SEC regulations, and therefore you have to focus on that. There's no mention of SEBI regulations anywhere. Okay. Genial also has the same question. What about exam? Will they ask according to India or US? They'll always ask according to US, because CFA exam is conducted using. You guys need to remember that CFA exam is a global exam conducted by only one organization, which is CFA Institute, and people from all over the world, whether it's Europe or US or India or China, all these students can take up this exam. So there is never a flavor of local regulations. So CFA doesn't ask questions on SEBI regulations or Chinese regulations, etc., etc. Okay, it is more they talk about generally SEC regulations because CFA Institute being based on US, or they generally ask more questions on accounting principles. So in fact, in CFA exam, there is very less mention about regulations. Of course, there is a topic on what we are studying, 10Q and 10K, but it is very limited. Generally, the topics are more focusing on accounting principles. So I'll talk about that in a moment. What is meant by accounting principles? Okay. But yes, the point is there will be never any questions on SEBI or any other regulations. It's primarily SEC. All right. Mega has a question. That means we prepare report for previous quarter in next quarter. Yes, Mega, we don't prepare report. rather we publish the report. So you should remember there is a lot of effort that goes in consolidating the report, making sure that the content is correct, etc., etc. So even though it may look like 1 quarter delay, but at least that much of effort is required. So but you're right. Usually there is a quarter delay around, not exactly quarter. 45 days is 0.5 quarter. Around 0.5 quarter delay in preparing reports. That's true. But that's the nature of the beast. You have so much of data, you have just so much of effort to make sure the data is correct. Okay, Suraj has a question. Is there any similarity between SEC and SEBI? I've already given you similarity. Just like SEC, in SEBI also you have quarter filing, you have annual filing. Of course, the dates are different because you have the financial system in India runs from April to March. All right. Let's move on. Akshit has a question on last date of registration for exam. As I said, Akshit, I'll take all questions regarding to exam a little later. All right. All right. I'm looking at the question. Vaishnavi has a question. So 10K should be published every Jan. 10K is usually, if you're talking about SEC regulations, 10K should be published within 90 days of your year ending. So in US, the financial year ends from Jan till December. So you have around 90 days. That is, before March, you should have published your 10K. Okay. Need not be in Jan itself. It should be within March. All right. Akshit has a question. What type of questions come from this topic? Example. Akshit, as I said, the questions that you may expect from the exam is, again, you see the questions on financial regulations. That is the questions on 10K and 10Q reporting is very unlikely. But you may get questions as simple as saying that which of these financial accounts are unaudited financial statements and have to be filed every quarter. So the moment you get unaudited, the answer has to be 10Q. So those are the typical questions that you may get. Very unlikely to get a question on SEC regulations as such, because the focus of FRA is not teaching you regulations as such, rather to teach you principles of accounting. Okay. Let's move on. So the whole idea, so we have learned so far what is meant by financial statements and why they are important. Now we'll know, now we'll try to understand how financial statements are constructed. So there are generally 4 entries or 4 minimum things that happens in a financial statement. You have a statement called income statement, right? So it's called a statement because using these reports, the company is trying to make a statement about its performance. That's why we call income statement. That's why we say cash flow statement, because using this report, the company is trying to make a statement about its performance for last year or quarter. So you have income statement, you have a balance sheet, you have a cash flow statement, and some companies may optionally choose to release this last one, that is statement of changes to stockholders' equity. So let's try to get some idea of what these statements are all about. So at a very high level, you need to understand this perspective, okay? So any company will get capital supplied. What is meant by capital? Capital is basically source of money. So there is some money given, just like we need money to run our family, companies also need money to run the organization, the operations. How do company get money? Usually from 2 sources, debt or stock. In financial perspective, we call this is capital raised through bond. This is capital raised through equity, right? Once you get your money, company actually uses this money to purchase various assets. What is an asset? Asset is basically defined as anything. It can be either physical, tangible or intangible stuff that can give you economic benefits. Economic benefit means you get monetary benefits, right? Over a period of time, right? It need not be now. Over a period of time, if you get economic benefits, then that is called an asset, right? we also use this term colloquially a lot of time, right? So we say that Karthik is an asset to this organization. That means what? Karthik is very good. In future I expect a lot of benefits of having Karthik in my organization, right? So asset is basically anything which is expected to give you economic benefits over a period of time. It need not be today. Over a period of time, it will give you benefits. So basically, at a very high level, what happens? Various sources, that is, a company gets capital from various sources. It can be either debt or stock, that is bond or equity. Company uses this money to purchase assets. And using these assets, company does various operations that generate cash flows, right? So the company may either sell equity, issue debt, or it can buy assets, it can buy inventory, it can make sales, etc., etc. Since all these operations are done using your assets. So you get money from capital suppliers, you purchase assets. Using these assets, you try to generate cash flows. That is, generate money. Once you have the money, you may choose to do two things from them. Either you may want to retain the money with you, right? Or you may want to return the money back to people who have given you capital. On a typical year, company try to do both. That is, a portion of cash flows that the company generate, it may use for a portion of that it may use for retaining for itself, and a portion of that it may actually give away to capital suppliers. The amount of money or income that the company decides to retain for itself is called retained earnings. That is, earnings basically means this is the income, or this is the money that I generated for this year. How much of that am I planning to retain? That is called retained earnings. Why do a company wants to retain some of the earnings? Obviously, because if you generate money, every year you can't go to debt owners or equity owners and say, give me money. I want to run I want to run the company for this year. The idea is you take some money from debt owners and stock owners. With that money, you try to generate capital, or with that money, you try to generate cash flows. Some of the cash flows you retain for yourself, because this will become your base for generating further cash flows next year. So it's like, you save some money that you have made, you save some money so that you can use that for further investment, right? That is called retained earnings. A portion of money the company may actually decide to give it to capital suppliers. So the way they do it is, when it comes to a bond, they pay it through interest. It's called interest expense. And when it comes to stock, they may pay it through dividend. Okay, so this is at a very high level the life cycle and working of a company. Any questions so far? All right. So no questions. Perfect. Okay. So now we'll try to understand what are the various kinds of financial statements that you may see. Okay. All right. So I have one question. Anil says, can you explain retained earnings? Anil, the idea is this, right? So let's say, you start with a capital of $100. Let's say, I give you a different example. Okay, a kind of analogy. Let's say you get a pocket money of $100 from your dad. Okay. With this $100, what you do, you decide to actually trade in stock markets, or let's say you try to do something. Let's say you engage in some gambling. Okay, even though gambling is a bad idea. If you look at it at a very high level, stock markets are nothing different from gambling. They're more sophisticated gambling. But anyways, all right. So let's say you decide to gamble, and you made money of, let's say you made money of $20. Okay. Now, one choice is you can actually give $100 back to your dad, and next year you ask $100 from your mom, right? The problem is every year you have to ask somebody to run your business, right? A better choice is you get your $100, you made a profit of $20. What you do is you actually retain this $20 back to you, right? So assuming that you're not returning back the $100, or let's say you return back the $100 to your dad, you still have $20 to run your company, right? With this $20, you further do your trading. You may further engage in gambling, etc., etc., right? So this $20, which is the money that you made for the year, you can actually retain for yourself, retain for further investment. Let's say you feel, let's say as an organization perspective, let's say you feel that there are some very exciting projects that you can pursue. So once you make profit this year, you can reuse this profit for investing into further projects. That is called retained earnings. That is, you're retaining a portion of your earnings for future potential use. Make sense? Anil, I hope you follow. All right. So let's move on. So the first financial statement that we're going to look into is called income statement. Okay. Income, what do you mean by income? What do you mean by income? Suraj says income is revenue. Not really, Suraj. Revenue is different from an income. Okay. Genial says income is profit. Yes. Income is more your profit or loss. So income tells you whether you are making profit or loss. Okay. So income statement is also called a P&L statement. That is profit and loss account. Okay. Right. Genial says what comes in, what goes out. Yes, exactly. You know, how much are you earning? How much are you spending? Right. Again, there is a very famous Hindi movie, right? It's called Amdani Atani Karcha Rupaya. That is, probably you're earning only 50 paisa, but your expenses are 1 rupee. So if this is the case, your income is negative, right? So same thing. The income statement tries to tell you how much is the company earning. That is, what are the sources of cash for the company and what are the sources of expense for the company. How, in what all places is the company giving out money. All right. So income statement. So Akshit has a question. Are these topics really covered in level 1? Yes, Akshit. All these topics are covered in level 1. Right. I'm giving you a very high level overview of what lies ahead for you in level 1. So all these topics that I have mentioned are all covered in level 1. Level 1 FRA is quite significant because it has the highest weightage and therefore the content is also quite large. Okay. There is a question from Mega, but whether we retain or give it back, it won't make any difference. Mega, it makes a difference, right? Because once you give it back, that money is not for you. So I'll give you an example, right? So let's say the same example, you got a pocket money of $100 and you made a profit of $20. Let's say if you decide to give back $20 to your father, saying that, Dad, I made a profit of $20, so I'll give it back to you. Okay. Let's say you gave the money back to your father and next day, suddenly your friend comes and says, hey, I have seen this cool something. Let's say I have seen this cool opportunity to make money. You need $20 to invest that. Right? What will you do? You'll again ask somebody else. Probably you ask your mother, Mom, give me $20. I have a very interesting option for trading. I want to trade for that. Right? So the point is, instead of that, had you not given the $20 back to your father, this $20 you could have immediately used the moment there is an opportunity for you to do that. Right? Now, from a company's perspective, you know, if company decide not to give money back to capital owners through dividends or interest, it can actually use this money and immediately employ that for any interesting project that might come your way. Okay, so that is where your retained earnings are important because it technically we call retained earnings are organic sources of capital. Organic means coming within, whereas your bond or equity are inorganic. That is, you are dependent on external factors to give you money. Okay. Mega says, but according to theory, there won't be any change in the value of the company. No, Mega, there is going to be a change in the value of the company. For those who don't understand the conversation, you can ignore. But since Mega started this topic, theory stands for Modigliani-Miller theory, And there are two postulates of MM theory, part 1 and part 2. If you read part 2 theory properly, Megha, they says that it is always beneficial to actually raise more of debt, because using debt you get. So MM theory is capital irrelevance theory. Okay, it doesn't say anything about retained earnings versus external cash flow. It tells about when a company has to raise capital, should it raise capital through equity or bond? In either ways, when we say I'm raising capital through inorganic sources. Okay, so there is part 1, part 2. Part 1 says that there is no difference between raising capital through either equity or bond, and part 2 actually says that for situations when there are tax benefits, it's always beneficial for a company to raise capital through debt, because it will get tax benefits using raising debt. Okay, so don't get confused. MM theory is nothing. It's not talking about retained earnings versus dividends. It's talking about raising capital through either equity or bond. All right. MM theory is not relevant for level 1. It's more studied in level 2. When it comes to capital structure or when it comes to corporate finance, you'll study more about MM theory on level 2. So that's why I said those who are not following the discussion, you can conveniently ignore. Okay. All right. So let's get back to the topic. So income statement it's a very good representation of income statement, because it's almost like climbing down stairs. Okay, so you first start with revenue. What is revenue? And somebody said income equal to revenue, right? So the difference is revenue is simply your sales. That is how much of quantity can you generate and how much of price can you sell them. So quantity into price, that is, let's say if I generate 1,000 units of a laptop, and each laptop I can sell at $100, then 1,000 into 100 is my revenue. Okay, it's basically money earned by selling your product. Okay, so revenue basically takes you to the top of your stairs. Okay, it's almost like a lift which takes you to the top. From there, for running any business, you have to incur some expenses, right? You have to pay to your employees, you have to pay to your laborers, etc., etc. So all these expenses are given in red boxes, and that is like climbing down the stairs one after the other. Okay, so for example, you can pay wages to your labor, you have to pay cost of raw material purchase, you may have some overhead in transportation or whatever. So there is some concept of depreciation. Okay, so these are all the costs that you incur in directly running the company, right? As Suraj says, these are direct costs. So my revenue minus wages minus material cost minus overhead minus depreciation tells me what is the difference between the money that I earn and the expenses, the money that I give out, right? Revenue minus these four together is called gross profit. That is, this is the profit that I make after considering direct cost, that is cost involved in running the business, operating cost. Okay, but do I only have operating costs? No, I have many more other costs, right? So I may have, for a company to run, I should have sales commissions, I may have marketing expenses, I may have amortization, etc., right? I may also pay interest to capital owners, especially to bond owners. I have to pay income tax, I may have deferred taxes that I have to pay, etc., right? So when it comes to all this, right, you may actually have, you may further reduce your profits, right? So the idea is, again, the same concept, right? Amdani kitna, kharcha kitna. So you have amdani of $1,000. Your one kharcha may be paying wages. Your another kharcha may be, kharcha means expense, maybe paying wages. Other one may be paying income tax, etc., right? So after all this, same thing when you run your, like I think, in every household, your mother is very good at income statement generation, right? So if you ask your mother, she will have a very good list of saying that your dad has earned so much of money, this much of money goes to rent, this much of money goes to your studies, this much of money goes to your, your petrol expense, this much of money goes to milk wala, and finally I have only left with 20 rupees, right? So that is your income statement. So what she has indirectly told you is, this is my income, that is, this is my revenue, and these are all my expenses, and therefore this is my difference. At the end of every month, probably in my example, are you left with money, or are you not left with money? Are you left with positive money, which means probably you still have scope of expensing further, or are you in negative, which means now for running your whole month, you have to actually borrow money from somebody else. Right? So that is what your profit and loss statement says. That is your income statement. Now I have some questions which I try to answer. Jayashank asked, what is the second wage? Jayashank, you have to look at here, right? So this wage is wages given to your production employees, this wage, right? Whereas this wages are talking about support staff, right? All right. So that's why there are two wages here. The difference what we make is because the wages that you pay to your production employees is it's a necessary evil. That is, for if you are to produce so much of quantity, then you have to pay for your production employees. Whereas the wages that you pay to your support staff is probably discretionary. So every company, when it wants to reduce its cost, it always first looks about firing its support staff, because that doesn't affect the core business of the organization. And that's why you have given two sections, because wages paid to production employees is a important cost, and you usually don't want to tamper around with it. Tomorrow, if you pay less to your production employees and they go for strike, suddenly your revenue is affected because you're not able to generate so much of unit. Whereas if you fire your HR or if you fire your support staff, it's not a big deal, because you still are able to generate your product, you still are able to sell it off. Of course, there may be other problems, moral problems, but that is okay, right? Vaishnavi says, shouldn't the second wage be termed as salaries? If you look at it, both of them are salaries, because even for support staff, there are some cases where you pay as per hours, right? So let's say if you have in fact, the recent trend is that most of the support operations are outsourced, in which case you actually pay them wage. That is, it is based on number of hours of work. So again, it's questionable. You can either have salaries, you can either have wages, whichever you want to say, right? All right, let me see at other questions. Akshay, there's a question. What is the full form of these terms, EBITDA and EBIT? EBITDA, yes, Akshay, that is what I'm going to get into next. So EBITDA stands for earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. Okay. EBITDA obviously stands for earnings before interest, tax and amortization. Okay. So these are your standard terminologies that you come across when you're reading financial statements, especially when you're reading income statement. Okay. Now before I go too much into detail, I'll give you some more basic idea. Okay. So when you look at an income statement as an analyst, what your focus should be? Your focus should be on figuring out what your operating profit is, right? Operating profit basically tells you what is my revenue minus my operating cost. That is, which are the costs which have to be incurred for me to generate so much of revenue. So any wages that you pay to your production employees, any wages that you, any electricity overhead, for example, any any machinery maintenance that you have to do, these are all necessary evils. You have to do them for you to generate money, for generate operations, right? So operating profit is nothing but revenue minus operating cost. So depending on what you feel like your operating cost, others may be non-operating costs. For example, sales, commissions, marketing are more non-operating cost, right? The problem with this definition of operating profit is that when it comes to company, they may have their own definition of operating cost. So if I am a manufacturing company, I may feel that the insurance premium that I pay for setting up this company is also an operating cost, because I have to pay insurance. Only then I feel comfortable that the company can survive any natural calamity. Whereas some company may say, no, insurance is not an operating cost, rather it's a non-operating cost. So the problem is, the moment you have operating profit, it is a very subjective definition. Different people may have their own representation of what is meant by operating cost. So it became very difficult for financial analysts to actually compare operating profit for different industries in particular, because different industries may have their own definitions of operating cost. So then how do you compare? That's why people came up with the idea of EBITDA. So EBITDA basically says, tell me your total earnings, that is, tell me your total profit and loss before you include interest, taxes, depreciation or amortization. Okay, so that is where the whole concept of EBITDA came into picture. Okay, all right, so hopefully it gives you some idea, Akshit. Of course, as I said, I can't take a whole class here. I'm just giving you some idea of what you're going to learn. Of course, all this that I'm talking about is actually involved in your CFA level 1 topic. All right. Then somebody has asked me a question: what is meant by depreciation or amortization? Basically, depreciation or amortization is talking more about its expense that you record for your wear and tear at a very high level. Okay, so basically depreciation is meant for tangible assets. That is, any tangible means any asset that has physical existence. But amortization is meant for any intangible asset. That is, there may be some assets which do not have physical existence, still they are asset. I'll give you an example. Right? So recently, Google took a majority stake in your Motorola, right? And the reason why Google took a majority stake in Motorola was because it wanted to acquire a lot of patents that Motorola has. So patents are actually intangible assets. That is, they are definitely going to make money for you in future, but they don't have a physical existence. Not that you can feel or touch a patent, right? So they are called intangible assets. Whereas any heavy machinery, any lathe, for example, you have for manufacturing something is a tangible asset. So your expenses recording wear and tear of tangible asset is called depreciation. Your expenses recording wear and tear of intangible asset is called amortization. Okay. So there are a lot of questions. I'm trying to get most of your questions, but I may miss one or two questions, so you have to forgive me for that. And once again, I don't want to get too much into details of the topic, because my idea is not to take a class on a particular topic, but rather to give you a very high-level overview of what you can actually expect. Okay, so you will be learning all these things that we studied in detail in your FRA CFA level 1 topic. All right. Gina has a question: what is SG&A? SG&A stands for, I'll probably write it down. SG&A stands for selling, general and administrative expenses. Okay, so selling, general and administrative. Okay, that is called SG&A. So for example, the commissions that you pay, the marketing cost are all selling and general administrative expenses. Okay. Megha has a question: what is deferred taxes? Megha, I'm going to actually not answer this question because it's a little involved, and at the risk of getting too much detail into the topic, I'll actually ignore this question. Okay. Of course, you'll be learning more about what is deferred taxes here in CFA level 1. So for the sake of not losing people, because it's a little involved discussion, if I have to explain deferred taxes, I have to explain a lot of other concepts. So you have to pardon me on this. I'll not answer this question for now. Okay. So this question you can definitely get your answer for once you study FRA in CFA level 1. All right. So I apologize for that. All right. So I'll keep moving on. Right. So basically, the moral of the story is your income statement tells you money that comes and money that goes, and after all the stairs that you climb down, what is your bottom figure, net income? Is it positive or negative? Positive means you are making enough money so that even after paying for all your expenses, you have money left with you. Whereas a negative net income means your expenses are more than your income. That is Amdani Atani Kharcha Rupaya. That's the case. All right. Pintu has a question: if gross profit is lesser than other expenses, will company has to pay taxes? See, we'll leave this taxes part to a little later, okay? As I said, because it's a little involved, and at the risk of not getting too much into detail for a demo, I'm going to park this question. But Pinto, to answer your question in particular, need not be, right? So if your gross profit is lesser than other expenses, it's not that you have to actually pay taxes. Of course, taxes have a cumulative effect. That is, when it comes to tax reporting in particular, you may carry forward some tax expense from previous years, and you might have to pay them this year. Okay, so that's what I said. We'll leave the whole discussion of taxes to a little aside because it's a little involved. But the point is, the taxes that you pay for this year is not necessarily meant for income that you earned this year. It can also be a carry forward from previous years as well. Okay, so that's why I'm trying to ignore this topic for now. You'll be definitely learning about this more in detail when we study FRA. All right. Mega has a question: selling goods and administration charges. Mega, the typical examples of SG&A is things like sales commissions that you pay, marketing expenses. So all these are selling related goods. Selling related, it's not selling goods, it's selling general and administrative expenses. Okay. All right. So I'll move on. Okay. I just try to finish this topic. Hopefully you're getting some idea of what you're going to study in detail in FRA. Okay. Actually, there's a question: what does overhead include? Overhead can mean anything, right? It may mean, for example, your insurance premium. It can mean the electricity expense that you pay, etc., etc. Okay. Pankaj says, I'm not able to see questions. Pankaj, probably you joined us late. In the beginning of the class, I said that you put your questions on the question box. I'll promise that I'll read out the question first, so that everybody has a chance to hear the question, and only then I'll try to answer the question. All right. Pinto has a question: is there any fixed percentage of charging depreciation every year? Yes, there are various methods of depreciation. There is a straight line depreciation. There is an accelerated depreciation. So using that, you can have different amount of fixed percentage or fixed dollar amounts of depreciation every year. Okay. So once again, I'm going to leave that question or leave getting into too much of details. Okay. Guys, please try to understand. We are not doing an actual topic. Okay. The idea of demo is just to give you an idea of. It's like a trailer of a movie. It gives you an idea of what lies ahead for the rest of the movie. Okay. I can't show you the entire movie. All right. So you have to bear me on that. Right. Similarly, I can give you the total plot. I can't tell you who is the villain, who is the hero, what is the twist in the story. Okay. So for that, you have to do an actual. You have to watch an actual movie. So for that, for you to understand all details of financial reporting, you have to study CFA level 1 in details. All right. Okay. Now, some of the complications that you may get when you are doing income statement analysis is revenue recognition. Revenue recognition means that when do I recognize revenue? So let's say I'm talking about a manufacturing unit. In a manufacturing unit, I may recognize revenue. There are two parts about that. That is, let's say I manufacture so much of goods, and I come up with an agreement. So let's say I am ABC. ABC is the corporation that is generating laptops. I can come up with an agreement with my customer to say that I'll deliver 1,000 laptops to you today. Okay. So this is more a paper deal. This is more a contractual agreement. And the customer says, only when I receive the goods and only when I inspect everything properly, I will give you money, right? Now, the shipment may itself take 3 months, right? Now, the question is, let's say in January 1st, I entered into a contractual agreement for selling 1,000 laptops to my customer, whereas the actual event only finished on March. That is, it was March or April by the time the actual goods could be shipped to the customer. Now the question is, when do I record this revenue? So let's say each laptop is worth $10, hypothetically. So obviously my revenue is 1,000 into 10, $10,000 is my revenue. The question is, Do I record the revenue when on the date on which I entered into a contractual agreement, or do I wait till making sure that the entire process of generation, that is contractual agreement and delivery to the customer, is complete? And customer may take his own time. So let's say after getting the goods in April, customer says, I'm going to run laptops for 3 months and only then I'm going to make you payment, right? So when do I record revenue? Should I record revenue in Jan? Should I record revenue in April? Or should I record revenue in when I get the cash, right? So these are the interesting questions that you need to understand, okay? Sorry. I'm not going to give you an answer, but yeah, I think I'm just leaving you with food for thought, okay? So, other problem is relevance versus reliability. This is a fundamental problem in accounting. That is, you want your accounting to be relevant. That is, you want the accounting to be as representative of recent trends. At the same time, it should be reliable. To give you an example, right? When company records, let's say you have bought a land, and let's say you bought the land 10 years back. So 10 years back, you know what is the land price. Let's say it was 10 lakhs for the land that you purchased. Now, you are now trying to show this asset on your balance sheet. You are trying to show how much is the value of this land as of today. The problem is, for you to be relevant, obviously you can't show 10 lakhs because the same piece of land which was worth 10 lakh 10 years ago need not be 10 lakh today, right? So from a relevance perspective, obviously you have to show the current market value or the current price at which the land sells in the market. The problem is the value is not reliable. Right? As of today, it's very difficult for me to say if I have a piece of land, what is the value that I get by selling the land? It's very difficult for me to quantify. I may get 50 lakhs, depending on some customer, I may also get 100 lakhs, you never know, right? So this is a problem, right? If I have to have relevance, there's no guarantee that my value will be reliable. So some companies choose to report it at historical cost. They may simply record it at 10 lakh because that is guaranteed cost that you paid. Okay. The problem of operating earnings I already said, right? So various companies may have their own definition of operating cost, and therefore it's very difficult to compare operating profit from one company to another company or company in one industry to another industry. So that's why people came up with the idea of EBITDA and etc. Earnings per share, right? So let's say you have two companies, one company which makes earnings of 1 million, another company that gives you earnings of 100 millions. Now, if I say which company is good, most of us may think that company B is good because it gives you earnings of 100 million. Whereas the problem is, or the fact that you ignore is, earning is only one part of the story. You also need to know how much of capital has gone, right? So let's say I am making 1 million on a capital of 10 million, whereas I'm making 100 million over a capital of 10,000 million. There's a big difference, right? That is why to know what is your earning per share, that is, they came up with the concept of earning per share, that is earnings per amount of capital infused. Okay, so obviously the company which is having higher earning per share is more efficient because with limited capital it can generate significant earning, right? So all these complications you will actually come across while studying financial statement analysis for income statement in particular. Okay, let me quickly finish one more topic, which is balance sheet and cash flow statement. And I know that we are getting late for answering questions regarding CFA also. So I'll quickly try to give you some idea about balance sheet and cash flow statement. The idea about balance sheet is, as it is shown, it is called a balance sheet because it is in balance. As per accounting, this fundamental equation holds true. That is, assets should be equal to liabilities plus equity. And that is why it's called balance sheet. Assets will always be equal to liabilities plus equity. Okay. So what does my balance sheet show? Balance sheet shows my position at a point of time. Right? If you look at your income statement told me how money came and how money went over a period of time. Right? So over a year, I made money by selling so and so good, and over a year, I lost money by so and so expenses. Whereas balance sheet tells me this is my position at a point of time. So balance sheet tells me that let's say if a company is in existence for 5 years, income statement for that year tells me what was the delta change. That is how my position changed over the year. Whereas balance sheet tells me after this delta change, what is my position as of today. So probably I'm saving money for every year. The cumulative effect of saving money for this year would be reflected in my balance sheet. Okay. I'll also move on. The next, as I said, this is the fundamental equation of accounting. Assets should be equal to liabilities plus equity. Then you have the concept of a cash flow statement. So cash flow statement comes to picture because you have something called as accrual accounting. In accrual accounting, the idea is that so the example that I said, right? Jan 1st is when I entered into a contractual agreement, but I got money only on, let's say, September 1st. When would I record revenue in my income statement? So there are two forms of accounting. One is called cash basis accounting. In cash basis accounting, I always record when I get cash. So I will not record revenue till September 1st. Whereas modern day of accounting is called accrual accounting. In accrual accounting, I'll record the moment something is contractually complete. That is, on Jan 1st, the moment I know that I'm going to get so much of money, even before getting cash, I'll actually record revenue. Okay. Once again, we'll be learning more about accrual accounting and the details and the various forms of accrual a little later. That is in the actual class of CFA level 1. But the point is, because you follow accrual accounting, this is where modern accounting principles follow. The income that you show need not be your actual cash, right? So let's say Jan 1st, I show a revenue of $10,000, and I also show an expense of whatever $2,000. For all you know, this $2,000 I would have already paid cash on Jan 1st, but this $10,000 which I'm supposed to get, I may only get in September. So even though my income statement shows a profit of $8,000 positive, in terms of actual cash flow, I might be negative 2,000 because I paid cash for this today, whereas the cash that I'm expecting may only come in future. Because of this fact, companies release a concept of cash flow statement. Interesting thing is, even if a company doesn't give you a cash flow statement, you can always derive a cash flow statement from income statement and balance sheet together. So all these formulas that you see, decrease in inventory assets, decrease in account receivable, and there is this slide also. That is, you can start from net income and add various increases or decreases, and from there you can actually arrive at the cash flow. Okay. Once again, you'll be studying all this in FRA level 1. That is, in FRA level 1, you study how to interpret cash flow statement, how to construct a cash flow statement from income statement and balance sheet. Okay. And why is cash flow statement important? Because, as I said, your income statement need not actually reflect the cash that you have, because of the whole concept of accrual accounting. All right. I think I'll leave at this. I think it gives you some idea about what you're going to study. Of course, there is much more complications that you can incorporate into both balance sheet and cash flow accounting. All this is reserved for your actual topic study. But at least by this time, I hope most of you have got some idea of what lies ahead for you in FRA CFA level 1. I have some questions, so I'll try to answer that, and then we'll probably get into the discussion about CFA exam, how to study, etc., etc. Okay. So Pinto has a question: is anybody doing CA along with CFA? Will it be useful for him for understanding financial analysis in a smooth way? Yes. I've, based on my experience, usually those who come with an accounting background, they can appreciate financial analysis better, but it's not a requirement. See, I think I gave my own example. I come from a non-accounting background. I'm basically an engineer, and I don't think I found it that difficult to understand the concepts of financial analysis. So it's not a rocket science, but yes, I think some amount of background always helps. So that I tend to agree. Priyambada has a question: how is capital stock different from retained earnings? Capital stock, as I said, Priyambada, is the money that you get by issuing stocks. Retained earnings is money that you retain for money from your profit that you retain for yourself. Okay. So one is inorganic source of capital, other one is organic source of capital. Retained earning is said organic growth because you're generating money for yourself. Whereas capital stock is said inorganic because you have to depend on an external factor to give you money to run your business. Swadhin says, I just joined now. Can I expect getting the recording of this seminar later? Yes, Swadhin. All these lectures are recorded, so you can definitely get recording for this seminar later on, right? Not a problem. Akshit asked a very pointed question: if a company issue bonus shares, then what will be the treatment in the cash flow? Akshit, you'll be studying more about that in FRA level 1. As I said, I don't want to get too much into details, yeah, I think hold your anxiety for some time. We'll be studying all this in CFA level 1. All right. Pankaj has a question: will this all pictorial presentation be covering in Pristine class? Yes, Pristine classes will have a lot of pictorial presentation because we generally believe, since all these pictures, I personally believe, become very useful in webinar because, as I said, I don't have the luxury of seeing your faces, so I don't know. I'm not a good face reader, but at least by looking at students, I can get some idea about, are you guys following or not. Unfortunately, I don't have that luxury in a web class, so that's why I think these pictures give you a good idea because, and similarly, same with me, right? I mean, you can't look at my face and try to get what I'm trying to say. So these pictures help you to understand concepts better. So that's why I try to involve as much as pictures. So there will be a lot of pictures in in the Pristine classes. Hopefully, which will help you in understanding the concepts better. So Jinal says, so much for FRA. Yes, Jinal, I'm going to stop for now. As I said, my idea was not to get into any topic in detail. My idea was just to give you a tip of iceberg. What all you can expect in FRA topics. FRA is a very, very vast concept, believe me. Very, very vast, ocean, and therefore, definitely we can't compare all details. We can't complete all details in 1 or 1.5 hours of the demo. Correct? So I have to apologize. I need to apologize for not getting into too much of detail. But hopefully, my purpose, which was to give you some idea. As I said, I was trying to show you a trailer for a movie. Hopefully, you got the idea there. Right? Okay. Jinal says, are there more topics? Jinal, there are much more topics in FRA. Okay. In particular for CFA level 1. So apart from cash flow statements, balance sheets, income statement, you also study about equity, shareholders equity statements. Then you also study what all are the complications in analyzing all this. Coming to the main point, right? So we as a financial analyst, why are we paid? Because not all companies are truthful in their representation of these financial statements. Some of the company may try to play around with accounting to give you as if they're doing well, whereas in actual practice, they may not be doing well. So we as a financial analyst are paid well because we are supposed to read between the lines, literally used to say. So the idea is, you need to understand what is given in financial reporting, but you as a financial analyst should be able to question, saying that when company says this much is my depreciation, is the company right in associating so much of depreciation? Or is the company trying to do any bad accounting? So all this you'll be studying in FRA. Okay. So in fact, there is a topic devoted for studying how do you identify red flags in financial statement. That is, what are the areas which gives you an indication that the company is probably manipulating in their accounting statements. It's a very interesting topic, FRA as such. I personally enjoy a lot both taking classes and even when I was learning about FRA. I hope you also get that interest. All right. Okay, I'm trying to move further. Anil has a question: is the syllabus of CFA level 1, FRM level 1 same? No. Anil, we usually say there is a 20 to 30% overlap in the concepts that are covered in CFA level 1 and FRM level 1. But that's all. 70% they're all different. Okay. Mega has a question, do I have enough time to prepare for June exam while doing MBA? Mega, yes. So now since most of the questions are on CFA as such, I'll probably open up this presentation. So the idea is this, right? The fundamental idea is, yeah, I think these are the bottom lines that you need to know. Key of doing well in CFA level 1 is actually, I would say there are 4 topics which are the most important from exam perspective. FSA obviously because it has a weightage of 20%, ethics because it has a weightage of 50%, and there are 2 more. I would say quants, which is again around 12% weightage, and you have your fixed income, right? So based on my experience, I've been teaching for CFA classes for around more than 2 years now, and based on my experience, students who pass the exam usually end up doing well in these 4 topics. FSA and ethics is a no-brainer because obviously, you know, these 2 have the highest weightage, 20% and 15%. Quants is also the 3rd highest in weightage, 12%. Also, the concepts can be a little tricky depending on whether you like mathematics or not. Fixed income is another interesting topic because it's a little abstract concept, right? I think especially in India, we all understand equities because equity market is well developed, but we have little experience of understanding bonds. You know, I might not have had practical experience working with bonds. So that's why I think fixed income becomes very important because the concepts can be a little tricky, and if you don't understand the concepts, you may definitely mess up on the exam. So I would say that key of doing well for CFA level 1 exam is focusing on these 4 topics. Now coming to your question, Mega, second bottom line, that is, the recommendation is as long as you put up 250 to 350 hours of study, you are usually good on the exam perspective. That is, depending on your background, let's say if you know mathematics well and if you know, your accounting well, probably 250 hours is enough. Depending on your accounting, or depending on your background, anywhere between 250 to 350 hours of preparation is recommended. So if you can put 350 hours of preparation, let's take the higher side during your MBA preparation, nothing like it. I think that should be good enough for you to pass the exam, right? Now all of us have the same problem. See, I also had the same problem. I was actually working when I was doing CFA. And for those who have asked this question, yes, I am both the CFA charter as well as an FRM charter. And both CFA and FRM I finished while I was studying. Oh, sorry, when I was working. So I studied while working. And of course, I started studying again after my engineering after a gap of 4 years. I was doing pure work for 4 years, and then I decided to take up CFA and FRM. So it's not easy. I think most of you know that. So I always give my example. So if somebody like me can clear both CFA and FRM while studying, definitely you guys too. So not a problem. All right. All right. I'll try to. Okay, I'm trying to get. Suraj has a question. Sir, are there any CFA level 1 recruiters? Yes, there are companies that are willing to take students with, or are willing to take people with CFA level 1 background. But to be honest, my recommendation would be that you need to be at least CFA level 2 to cash in on something, because see, general industry perspective is that CFA level 1 is foundation course on finance. It gives you basics of finance, but the real meat of CFA is in level 2 and level 3. So I would say that if you're really cashing on CFA knowledge, you need to be at least level 2. But Suraj, to answer the question, yes, there are definitely recruiters who are willing to take students even with CFA level 1 passing experience. Okay, I'm trying to answer one question at a time. Anil has a question, are Pristine classes sufficient for cracking CFA level 1 exam? If not, then what are the available resources which we have to get and have more sound knowledge of CFA level 1 topic? So actually my recommendation would be this, okay? Let me go to blank slide. So Pristine classes are definitely useful in the sense that you get a chance to interact with somebody who's already done CFA. So he or she can give you a good idea about what are the important focus areas from exam perspective. He can also give you tips about how to solve questions efficiently. So preceding classes are definitely useful. But apart from that, I would recommend two important things. Okay, one is it's always handy to have some study material like Treasure, because it's a good ready reference for you to study. Because sometimes what happens, your mind works during morning days. When you're bored in your, well, let's say you're attending some meeting in office and you're bored, probably your mind wants to work. You want to study something about CFA. At that point of time, you don't have a luxury of a preceding class or looking at the video recording. So something like Treasure always helps you. You can have a quick reference. So that I'll definitely recommend. Another area which I always recommend and people ignore is studying CFA textbooks. So CFA Institute, when you actually pay your fee, gives you some CFA textbooks. And I personally feel that there are some topics which are beautifully explained in CFA textbook, and probably there are some topics which are a must to have. That is, I would say that for you to pass and get really good score on the exam, some topics you have to study from CFA textbook. So preceding classes, apart from this, I'll supplement using question books and CFA textbooks. Akshit has a question, will you give any other webinar on different topics in coming days? So Akshit, I've taken all classes for CFA, that is classes for all topics ranging from equity, ethics, corporate finance, FRA, quants. Now whether I'll be taking, I'll be definitely taking some of the webinar sessions for your batch going forward. But whether I'll take all the classes, I don't know. Even though I've taken all classes in the past, depending on scheduling, some other instructor may also come up, right? But one thing is guaranteed, I'll be definitely be taking at least one, if not more, classes for you going forward. All right. Radhika asked the question, is reading from Treasure enough, or do we need to go through CFA Institute books? I think I hopefully have answered this question already. As I said, there are certain topics. So, as and when I take classes, I'll actually be emphasizing, saying that these topics are probably best studied using CFA textbook. So I'll definitely be emphasizing that. But for major, and obviously, another area where CFA textbooks become very handy is solving questions. So there are end of the chapter questions. Some of the questions are actually previous questions that appeared in CFA exam. So I think that's why CFA textbooks are definitely useful, because you can study certain topics in detail, and you can always calibrate yourself by asking or by solving questions, end of the chapter questions. So both way I feel CFA textbooks are very, very important. Anil says, which is the best book for FRA, CFA level 1 exam? I would say, Anil, again, it's a concept, it's a combination of Treasure plus CFA plus Pristine. Once again, I can answer this question better for specific topics. So there are certain topics, as I said, when I take classes, I usually emphasize saying that these topics probably you should read from CFA textbook because they nicely explain this, or these concepts are probably not even explained in Treasure or something. Probably you're better off reading it in CFA textbook. So I'll definitely emphasize on them on a case-by-case basis. Suraj has a question. Can I start my own investment firm after completing 2 levels of CFA? Does it give enough knowledge to do so? Yes, Suraj. In fact, I started trading after doing CFA level 1 itself. Of course, I lost some money also, but it definitely gives you a confidence. And after level 2, I realized what all mistakes I was doing when I was trading after level 1. So yes, level 1, level 2, and even level 3 gives you good knowledge for trading, and if you want even starting your own investment firm. All right. Gina has a question, which subject we should start and the flow which we should be followed by us for studies? It's a very difficult answer, Gina, because the good part is each and every subject in CFA is self-contained. That is, it's not that you need to study ethics for you to understand corporate finance, or it's not that you need to understand corporate finance to study quants, right? They're all pretty much self-contained. So that way you can follow any order. But if I were you, obviously I'll focus more on topics which are heavyweights. That is FSA, ethics, quants, fixed income. In my opinion, I'll study first, and I'll devote a lot of time for these topics, because obviously, together these 4 topics constitute around 59% of your weightage. If you look at this, together these topics constitute around 59%. So definitely these are the first one that I'll start. Again, it's more your thing. Megha says, should we read ethics from discussion notes or from curriculum? Megha, as I said, again, when I take ethics classes, I'll actually tell you, what are the topics that are better read from CFA textbook, what are the topics that are better read from discussion. Okay, so please bear with me till then. Anil has a question. What is FSA? FSA is financial statements analysis. It's also called financial reporting analysis. Everything means the same. Okay. Pankaj has a question. How much time you usually give on weekdays? Pankaj, that's a good question. So I usually recommend that, assuming that most of you are actually studying, or most of you are actually working when you're studying, it's very important to strike a good work and study balance. What I mean by that is, so usually the recommendation is that you need to put in around 250 to 350 hours of studies. But I actually go one step ahead and say that you need to study on a discipline basis. That is, at least try to devote 1 hour to 2 hours every day for studying topics. And believe me, that works magic. I've seen a lot of students who do the exact opposite. That is, they don't study during weekdays, and on weekends suddenly they do superhuman efforts. They'll study 16 hours a day, 20 hours a day. But there is no use, because whatever you studied by staying awake on last Sunday, you would have forgotten by the time next Saturday comes, right? So it's a very bad idea to study only on weekends. So I personally believe that have a disciplined study. And even 1 hour, 2 hours a day is good enough. But make sure that you are in constant touch with the topic. And that is a challenge for CFA, because especially for those who are working while you're studying, because there is going to be always certain days where you are messed up in office, but make it a habit. Just like you don't forget to have dinner, don't forget to open up your CFA textbook and study for 1 hour, right? And that gives you wonders, believe me. A lot of questions coming in, so I'm trying to answer them one by one. So you have to bear with me. Vaishnavi has a question. Does Pristine provide question notes? No, Vaishnavi, you have to procure question note of your own. So that's the point. On details of how or where you can procure question notes, or how and where you can procure financial calculator, at the end of this class, I'll actually leave you with a particular number, who is basically a career counselor. You can contact the career counselor, and he or she can actually help you get all the details about where to procure CFA material, where to procure your session material, where to procure your financial calculators, and even questions saying that this is my educational background, is CFA really benefiting for me, and stuff like that. We have dedicated career counselors who can help you with these questions. Okay, so given that we have around 30 of you who have joined me, it will be very difficult for me to answer on a personal basis. So all these questions about from where can I get textbooks, or from where can I get calculators, or this is my educational background, is CFA really beneficial for me, I'm going to ignore them in this class. But I'll give you a lead, I'll give you a number. You can always call up that person, and he or she will definitely help you in your personalized query. All right. Niharika has a question. Do you have any idea about BAT? How to prepare for BAT exam? Niharika, I don't really understand what is BAT. Can you give me some more details? Sorry, I really don't know much about BAT. Pinto has a question. Is Pristine providing weekend classes? Yes, Pristine primarily conducts classes on weekends. And when it comes to web classes, it's usually evening 5 to 10 IST. All right. So we have classes primarily on Saturday and Sunday, because a prime reason for that is people who take classes, like people like me, we also have a day job. So we are not available from Monday to Friday. And same with you guys also, I think, so that's why weekend works out well. Suraj has a question. Do you have classroom-based session, or is it completely webinar-based? Suraj, we have classroom sessions, but we have sessions only in certain cities. So I'll probably give you that detail. So CFA classes are conducted in these locations in India. This can give you this information. CFA is actually conducted in these locations. That is, you have Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, and online. Okay. So for those who can't reach any of these cities, you always have the concept of attending the classes through online. All right. So for all of you who have asked the question, which are the topics which will be done from CFA textbook? As I said, I'll tell them more on case by case, because only when we get to that topic, it makes sense for me to say these are the topics that is better read from CFA. And I also give you a reason why, because there are certain areas where CFA gives you better examples. So I can actually refer saying that look at these page numbers in CFA textbook and see how they have given a good example for understanding this concept, right? So instead of giving you a blanket rule, I'll actually tell you it on a case by case basis. That will be better. Anil has a question: from where can I get previous year's question papers and mock exams? So Pristine gives you one mock exam. CFA Institute also gives you one mock exam. In fact, there are two mock exams, one which is free, one which is paid. Apart from that, you can always Google and find out previous year's question papers. All right. All right. Anil has a question: how did you manage to crack both CFA and FRM? Given that you are also from engineering background. Anil, I would say that it's more discipline study, right? Obviously, I had some problems, like topics like FRA. I had problems because I never came from accounting background. So I put in more effort to understand that, right? So it's discipline study is what is really the need for the day. And of course, with that you can always, as I say, if you have a will, when there is a will, there is always a way. So I had a strong will to do well and pass CFA exam, and that was also motivation. So motivation is equally important. Okay. Israel has a question: do you offer online classes for FRS? I don't really know what is on the FRS, Israel, so you need to expand on that. Akshay has a question: what do you recommend, ebook or printed curriculum? Akshay, the point is there's absolutely no difference in terms of content, whether it's an ebook or printed curriculum. But of course there is a difference in cost. I think your printed curriculum cost you $80 more, if I'm not wrong, $50 to $80 more, depending on the courier charges and printing charges. So in terms of cost, I would recommend ebook. But again, it depends. I personally don't like reading something so much from laptop or my iPad because I feel that gives you a little bit of strain on your eyes. So I always prefer printed material. So again, it's personal choice. In terms of content, there is absolutely no difference between an ebook or a printed curriculum. So that should not be your factor. All right. Gina has a question: from where can I get other webinar recordings? Gina, you can always reach out to Pristine and they'll give you links for all the recordings as and when they're available. Radhika has a question: are there any direct questions in L1? Yes, there are many direct questions in L1. L1 is in fact one of the simplest levels of CFA. So you need not worry. There are going to be several direct questions in L1. All right, so not a problem. Radhika again has a question: is there enough time to appear for June exam now? Yes, there is enough time to appear for June exam. It's only not even February, so you have good 4 months. And as I said, even if you put 2 to 3 hours every day, you will easily cross 350 hours recommended efforts, right? So no problem. Definitely you can, you have enough time to do it. Swadhin has a question: do Pristine have any kind of cash course program or any kind of mock test? Yes, Pristine has a cash course program. I'll refer to see this. So once again, crash course programs are not conducted online; they're conducted in session. So if you are any of these cities, that is Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Hyderabad, etc., then you can always have, you can always attend crash course. It's a 6-day crash course, totally 50 hours. So you'll have 7 to 8 hours per day. Okay. And there is also a mock exam which is given here, right? So there is one additional mock test that Pristine also conducts. All right, and move on. Pinto has a question, does Pristine take any weekend test or monthly test so that here one person know how to, where he stands? Pinto, no, but basically I can, so usually when I conduct classes, I try to solve as many questions as possible because my philosophy is that that is going to be output on the exam. So we try to do as many questions as possible in the class, and with that you get a decent idea of whether you are learning the concepts or not. Understanding a concept and learning it from exam perspective can be two different things. You need to know how to apply the concepts for solving problems. So that is best understood only by answering questions. So we try to do as many questions as possible in the class, and that gives you a decent idea about where you stand. Niharika says BAT stands for Bloomberg Assessment Test. Niharika, I'm sorry, I don't know much about this, so I'll not comment on this. Once again, you can contact the career counselor. He or she should be able to help you better on this. Radhika has a question. Are online Pristine classes good? Yes, Radhika. That is something that you should tell me now, having attended 1 or 2 demo sessions. These are the typical classes that happen on Pristine. I would personally definitely recommend Pristine because, see, when I studied, I didn't have luxury of going to Pristine. And I personally felt that the thing that was lacking was a practical understanding. So there was nobody to give me tips on how to, what are the focus areas for the exam, how should I approach certain kinds of questions, and there was nobody for me to resort to for understanding some practical aspects of a topic. I'll probably read some topic, but I don't understand what is the practical implication of this topic. So that's why I feel that your Pristine lectures are very useful, because lecturers who take Pristines are those who have already cleared CFA and are those who are already working in this kind of industry. So I think you get a very good perspective from their side. Akshit and Suraj have a question. What is the course fee? I think that is demonstrated on your slide now. It's 22,000. The course fee is same for both for both online as well as in-person classes. All right. Shivtej says, can you read my question? Not sure. Shivtej, I'm not sure if I missed your question. Please put it. So there are so many questions, so I'm taking some time to manage them. Radhika asked, do you teach in Delhi Center? Radhika, I sometimes do travel for classes, so sometimes I do teach in Delhi also. As I said, if your question is, do I always teach in Delhi Center? The answer will be no. You always get different faculties for different courses, and that's also good because you get different perspectives from different people, right? So that's a good thing for you. Same thing with Bangalore, Vaishnavi. I do take 1 or 2 classes, but not all of them. All right. Price for crash course, Swadhin, there is no price for crash course. When you pay 22,000, all this comes bundled. So you get online session, you get classroom sessions, you get 6-day crash course, and you also get mock test, etc. So everything is a bundle fees. You don't have to pay specifically for crash course. All right. So there is a question, how can I back up my classroom sessions if I miss out? I assume you're talking about webinar sessions. You always have luxury of referring to recordings. So all these sessions that we do are recorded. So you can always go to your Pristine account in the website, access your recordings. And if you have any questions, you can always, there is something called a Pristine forum, which is basically a forum meant for discussing questions. So let's say you miss out a particular class, you can always access the recordings, video recordings, and any question you can put it on the Pristine forum, and definitely there will be somebody who will respond back to you with their question answer, right? So not an issue. All right. I'll try to read other questions. So it's a good question from so there's a good question from Israel. The question is it possible that we can have lessons on how to use CFA professional calculator? I have one, but still having problem in using it. Israel, of course, that is our job, so our job, as I said, so that's why I feel Pristine classes are better, because I learned calculator by myself, stumbling and learning it. And I feel that, it's very important to know how to use calculator efficiently for doing well on the exam. So in Pristine classes, especially when you're learning about quants topics, I'll definitely teach you how to use CFA calculator. And not only that, I'll give you some important tips on how to use calculator better. Okay, so that's definitely part of classroom syllabus. All right. Jinal has a question, what are the fees for crash course only? I don't know, Jinal, for that you have to contact Pristine, the career counselor, the one whose number I leave at the end of the class. All right. I don't have that level of detail. I'm sorry about it. Radhika says, are online classes interactive than just as in class? Radhika, I thought we are in an interactive session, right? So online classes are also interactive. Of course, the problem is you don't have luxury of looking at each other's faces, but that's okay. And that's why I personally feel that any classroom session is only useful if you interact. The whole idea of a classroom is to make sure that you understand something out of the class. So please ask as much as questions as possible, and it's my responsibility to make sure that I answer each and every question. All right. So we definitely appreciate if the class is interactive. Okay. Akshay says, classroom fee include online classes? Yes, as I said, please refer to this slide. This gives you everything. Akshay says, can I get placement in USA after doing CFA? Yes, Akshay, as I said, CFA Institute is a institute based in USA, so you can definitely get placement in United States of America, not a problem. Not only US, this is a global degree, which means that anywhere in the world, if you want to get job based on CFA, you'll definitely get it. So CFA is recognized all over the world. So that's a useful thing. All right, I'm trying to look at your questions. So some of you have asked, what is the last date of the registration and how should I pay? So I'll take you to this slide which answers this question. So these are your timelines that you need to focus for paying. All of us, I think all of you, I assume, have already missed 19th September deadline. So the next closest deadline for you would be Feb 13th Feb. And if you pay by 13th Feb, you'll be saving a decent amount of money, $300, right? The process of registration is straightforward. You have to just go to CFA Institute and create your login, enter your details, and simply pay through electronic means. That is, you can pay through your credit card, and you're done. So these are the deadlines for June exam. For December exam, I think the timelines start after March. So from March, you will be given a new set of timeline. For December, usually you have time up to September, if I'm not wrong, for making payment, right? So that's not a problem. Yeah, debit card or credit card, either of them can be used. So that's not a problem. As long as your foreign currency, remember you have to pay in dollars. So that's why I always recommend that you pay as soon as possible, because $300 can mean a lot amount of money, especially given the fact that the way your exchange rate can fluctuate. All right. All right. Vaishnavi has a question. Which calculator would you suggest? Texas Instruments BA2 Plus or Professional? So before I get into that, some basic background. That is, the only calculators that are recommended or that are endorsed by CFA Institute is HP12C, Texas BA2 Plus or Texas BA2 Plus Professional. From an exam perspective, whether you have BA2 Plus or BA2 Plus Professional, it doesn't make a difference. But I personally recommend BA2 Plus Professional because it is a good calculator to have. And I've also mentioned this in the past, that is, if you're writing other professional exams such as FRA or CA, then Texas Instrument BA2 Plus Professional is also endorsed in those exams. So, I would say generally it's a good calculator to have. So my recommendation would be BA2 Plus Professional. All right. Pankaj has a question, does CFA level 1 provide a base for CFA level 2? Yes, Pankaj, the whole idea of breaking this exam into level 1, level 2, level 3 is to say that one step at a time. So only once you clear level 1, you understand the topics necessary for level 2. So they are logical order, and even from a requirement perspective, you can't appear for level 2 till you clear level 1. So it's definitely logical stepping. Suraj has a question, is there any negative marking? No. The good thing about CFA exams is that A, they are multiple choice questions, and B, there are no negative markings, so not a problem. You can also make a guess, and if your luck is with you, you can also clear the exam. Actually, there's a question, will the figures in paper include only dollars? What is custom fees? How can I pay? Actually, I'm not getting your question. What do you mean by custom fee? Where do you come across that? Raghav has a question, average salary package one can expect after level 1 clearing and level 2 clearing. See, it's a very broad question, because the amount of salary that you get is more dependent on multiple factors. It depends on your personality, it depends on your educational background, it depends on your job experience, it depends on market conditions, all these combination. But if I had to take empirical evidence, I've seen students earning anywhere between 10 lakhs to 15 lakhs after level 1 and level 2. Okay. Again, there is no upper limit. I have students earning as much as 30 lakhs also. And in some rare occasions, I've also seen students earning around 5 to 10 lakhs. So it really depends on your educational background, your job experience, your market conditions. But I would say safely it can be anything between 7 to 15 lakhs. Anil says, what are the job prospects as a fresher for clearing level 2? As I said, Anil, once you clear level 2, you have a lot of scope, because level 2 is considered to be, something in finance. So yes, you have significant scope of getting job. Right. Okay. Akshay says, how can I receive a study material from CFA Institute? Akshay, you have two choices. Either you can pay money and opt for ebook, in which case you'll be given a login. You can download ebook material. Or if you opt for textbook, they'll be couriered to you. Obviously, they'll charge courier charges. So that's not a problem. Okay, there are a lot of questions coming in. So guys, I'm taking some time to read all of them. Bear with me on that. Okay. Jinal has a question, what is the passing percentage? Jinal, usually it's around, when it comes to CFA level 1, it's around 35 to 40%. Okay. But good thing or bad thing, it is not a fixed value. So every year, depending on the complexity of the exam, you may get any passing percentage. But usually, once again, empirically talking, that is based on historical data, is around 35 to 40% for level 1. Israel says, I'm doing BSc Honors in Financial Engineering. Do this course have any linkage to CFA course? Yes, CFA gives you definitely basics of financial engineering. First step is understanding financial instruments, understanding how we can go about financial modeling, and CFA definitely gives you a lot of background, a lot of conceptual background for doing that. So I would say definitely there is a lot of intersection between CFA and financial engineering. Priyamvada has a question. You had earlier said we need around 4 years of relevant experience to clear all 3 levels. What apart from CFA would you suggest during these 4 years? Priyamvada, I didn't say that you need to have 4 years of experience for clearing 3 levels, but yeah, after you clear 3 levels, for you to get CFA charter, you need to have 4 years of professional experience. So there's no requirement that you need to have 4 years of experience for clearing level. That clearing the exam is different from earning charter. All right. MBA plus CFA, would it make difference in terms of placement? Yes, definitely. MBA gives you some idea about general management. CFA gives you some recognition in terms of finance. So if you're trying to have a career in finance and management, MBA plus CFA is definitely a good choice. All right. Vibhor has a question. Is it mandatory to have 4 years of work experience in finance to get CFA charter? Yes, Vibhor. That's a mandatory requirement. You'll only be awarded CFA charter if you clear, the 5 years or the 4 years of necessary experience. Okay. Some of you have asked questions saying this is my educational background, this is my current job profile. Is CFA, am I eligible for CFA charter or not? So once again, since these questions are person dependent, I won't have time to answer all of this because each person comes with a different job profile, different education background. So once again, I recommend that I leave the name and number of the career counselor. Please contact him or her to get more career counseling. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't have time to answer each one of your questions in in person. There's a question: what is the passing percentage of students from Pristine in CFA level 1? So I'll try to answer that question also. So I think this slide tells you 65 to 85%. We have seen success rate. All right. So and personally, based on my own experience, I have seen students doing quite decently well on the exam after Pristine classes. So it's a decent percentage. All right. Okay. Pinto has a question: if anybody clears CFA level 1 in June, will he be eligible to give CFA level 2 in December? Pinto, you need to understand certain basic things. That is that your only CFA level 1 happen twice a year, which is June and December. Level 2 and level 3 only are conducted in June, which means if you clear it in CFA level 1 in June 2013, you have to wait till June 2014 to give level 2. Only level 1 happens twice a year. Level 2 and level 3 only happens once a year. Okay. Vibhor has a question. When will the results be declared? Sorry, Vibhor has a question. If I fail, what is the fees to retake? So once again, I'll get your attention to this. So if you fail, first of all, it's a bad question to ask because don't prepare for failing on the exam. But yes, I understand the question. In case you fail and in case you have to reappear, you'll only end up paying the second part. So the first part that you pay is, it's a one-time fee. For all successive exams, it could be either reappearing for the same level, or it could be even writing level 2 and level 3. You only end up paying exam fee, which is around $680 to $1,000. All right. Okay. Lalit has a question: when do you organizing the next webinar? I think the batch starts from 27th of January, which is next Sunday. Starting as early as next Sunday. Once again, please get in contact with Pristine, coordinator in case there are any changes to dateline. But this is what I understand. So, as early as next Sunday, you may have the first class. Akshay has a question: when will be the results declared of December 2012? Akshay, the results come anytime between Jan and. So I think in another week or so, you will be getting results for December 2012 exams. Okay. Pankaj has a question. Please tell me how Pristine methodology is different from other coaching providers. Pankaj, I have not gone to any other coaching provider either as a lecturer or as a student. But if you ask me, I think the things which are different in Pristine is the fact that we place a lot of practical importance to, or I would say we place a lot of importance to practicality. So, I like the classroom sessions being more interactive. I try to read each one of your questions, try to answer them. And B, I try to give you some idea about, so you learn some question or you learn some concept. How are you going to apply that concept in solving problems? So that is where the focus is. The focus is more practical oriented, saying that what are the details that you need to know for understanding the concepts and more importantly for passing the exam. Okay. So yeah, that's the best answer that I can give you. Obviously, this question is better directed for someone who has probably, attended non-pristine classes, I can tell you, right? All right. What are the duration of classroom classes and fee? Duration of classroom classes. So we usually have 20 classroom sessions for CFA level 1. 20 means assuming 2 days per weekend, Saturday, Sunday, you will have 10 weekends, right? So that comes around 2.5 months. So that is going to be a duration. And fees, I thought I already mentioned that fees is around 22,000, right? So you get, if you look at this slide, I think this gives you the information that you're looking for. Where can I get question from? Akshit, as I said, I'll leave you with the contact number of the respective point of contact, and you can ask him or her for details. All right. So I think we are pretty much nearing the end of the demo session. I hope most of you got answers for the questions that you're looking for. I know I haven't intentionally answered questions regarding questions such as career counseling questions saying that I come from so-and-so educational background, I come from so-and-so job profile. Can I get CFA charter or not? Because I hope you understand my difficulty. Each person comes from different educational background or different job profile. So it's going to be a little difficult for me to answer. So I think there are 35 of you who have joined. So it's going to be difficult for me to answer each 35 of you one by one, right? So what I'll be doing is I'll leave you with contact numbers of various in terms of how you can make payment. You can also make payment to Pristine using online. I think the details of online account number etc. is given here. This is more important for you. So these are all the contact numbers that you can go for. Especially for online classes, you can contact Dilshu, and the number is given on the slide. So you can ask any questions that you might have in terms of career counseling questions, saying that, hey, is CFA with my educational background and with my job profile, is CFA meant for me? Can I get CFA charter, etc., etc.? Or how do I procure special material? How can I procure calculator, etc., etc. All right. Will you inform me about next webinar? Yes. Please contact. As I said, please contact the respective numbers which are given here. In particular, contact Dishu because she's the one taking care of online classes. So she'll actually tell you when you can expect the next classroom session. All right, and you can contact them right away. Yes. All right. Okay, guys. So I think I'll end the demo for today. I hope most of you have got answers, and I really appreciate the interaction that we had today. I wish each one of you best of luck in your future endeavors, and I hope to interact with you further in upcoming sessions for Pristine. All right. So all the best. Do well. Thank you. Have a good rest of the weekend and take care. Good night.